Chapter 468. Entering the Divine Realm, the Ancient Covenant. A dazzling burst of light shimmered outside the ancient passageway, startling awake some deity transformation experts in the vicinity. "It's happening," they murmured. "The ancient passageway is lit again. Has someone from the ancient continent ascended to godhood?" Becoming a god in the ancient continent was no small feat. Could it be an offspring or a disciple of a true monarch, they speculated. The ancient continent, with its profound heritage, was known to be the birthplace of many true monarchs and even true immortals. At that moment, deity transformation and nascent soul cultivators perked up, their gazes fixed on the massive portal. With a swoosh, a figure stepped out from the portal. Lin Fei. He instantly surveyed his surroundings, feeling numerous gazes upon him, their intentions unknown. Without a second thought, Lin Fei unleashed the power of hundreds of particle worlds within him, coupled with the force of the laws. His terrifying aura swept out like a tsunami, engulfing all directions. The deity transformations, stationed outside the portal, felt a shiver in their spines, recognizing the immense power. This godly figure from the ancient continent was not to be trifled with. His aura was not merely that of a deity transformation, but of martial gods. But how, when the ancient continent hadn't produced a martial god in many years? "Stop, fellow Taoist," called an elder's voice. "We are from the ancient covenant, guardians of this inter-realm passageway. We mean no harm." Lin Fei furrowed his brow but ceased his show of force. The crowd heaved a sigh of relief, having been nearly suffocated by his overwhelming presence. If he were indeed a martial god, he would be among the most formidable, with unimaginable potential. The ancient covenant. Lin Fei pondered. He had heard of this name from Dao Tai. The ancient covenant, said to control the passageway between the divine realm and the ancient continent, was one of the top forces in the divine realm, founded by powerhouses from the ancient continent itself, with even true immortals and martial ancestors at its helm. Their dominance and strength were renowned. It was due to the ancient covenant's control that Dao Tai had to resort to stealth to travel to the ancient continent. "How should I address you, Taoist friend?" asked an elder, seemingly a deity transformation avatar, approaching Lin Fei with a smile. "Lin Fei. Taoist Lin, you must be a martial god, right? I have just ascended to godhood. That is truly rare. The emergence of deity transformations in the ancient continent is not unusual, but the appearance of martial gods is indeed a rarity. Judging by your demeanor, Taoist Lin, it seems you have yet to traverse the thunder tribulation. With such a formidable presence without having crossed it, your future potential is boundless. You might even attain the rank of a true monarch." True monarch. Lin Fei heard this term for the first time. A true monarch refers to a void realm powerhouse. Specifically, it denotes those who have transformed the void. In martial arts, a great martial god is also known as a true monarch. Lin Fei understood. It was simply a title. Reaching the void realm conferred the title of true monarch. The martial gods who shattered the void, or the great martial gods, were also true monarchs. "Having just arrived from the ancient continent, I am still unfamiliar with many things and need to get my bearings." "Of course," the elder responded. "However, our ancient covenant is a power of the ancient continent. If you are willing to join the ancient covenant, it would be most beneficial. Moreover, there are certain perks within the ancient covenant that allow for a return to the ancient continent." "Perks?" "Yes. As you must know, once in the divine realm, it is difficult to return to the smaller worlds. This is a rule set by the major powers. However, with the payment of sufficient treasures or a price, one can travel back to the ancient continent. Within our ancient covenant, the required treasures or price to pay is significantly lesser." Lin Fei understood. Dao Tai, most likely, was not a member of the ancient covenant or could not afford the required treasures or price. Or perhaps the cost was not proportional to the benefits, leaving smuggling as the only option. But Tao Chi's knowledge of such methods, or the loopholes in the ancient covenant, was quite extraordinary. This deity transformation expert was named Taoist Qinglan. After being arranged accommodation in an inn by Taoist Qinglan within the ancient covenant, Lin Fei left. Outside the ancient covenant lay the prosperous ancient city. Even as a non-member of the ancient covenant, Lin Fei was free to enter and exit the ancient city but could not approach the inter-realm passageway anymore. Lin Fei then strolled around the ancient city. The ancient city was vast, its limits extending beyond the horizon. The flight was prohibited within the city, which was not solely inhabited by deity transformations, martial gods, or divine beings. In fact, the majority were golden core, nascent soul, martial sovereign, and martial king cultivators, making it significantly stronger overall than the ancient continent but not overrun with godly beings. Even in the divine realm, divine beings remained prestigious and revered, commanding respect and status wherever they went. Lin Fei settled into his room at the inn and summoned Dao Tai. "Dao Tai, you're not a member of the ancient covenant, are you?" he asked coolly. "If I were to hand you over to them, what reward might I receive?" Lin Fei had already gleaned that the ancient covenant had zero tolerance for breaches in the inter-realm passageway. Anyone caught exploiting such a loophole, especially through smuggling, would face severe punishment. Dao Tai shrugged and replied with a bitter smile, "I knew it would come to this. You human cultivators are always so cunning. If you had wanted to hand me over to the ancient covenant, you would have done so already. Your delay suggests you're seeking a trade. So, what do you want in exchange for sparing my avatar?" Despite not being the brightest, Dao Tai was far from foolish. Lin Fei's decision not to surrender him to the ancient covenant indicated a desire for something in return. To preserve his avatar, Dao Tai was prepared to make a significant sacrifice, albeit reluctantly. "Kun is a member of the ancient covenant, right?" Lin Fei asked casually. "Kun? That old creature is ancient and very close to the true monarch level. Even with your strength, you won't stand a chance against him without surviving several thunder tribulations," Dao Tai replied. "Haven't you felt something different since arriving in the divine realm? The laws of the ancient continent are flawed compared to those here." "The laws?" Lin Fei pondered. He hadn't considered them until now, but the mention triggered a reaction. Suddenly, he felt a strong attraction, as if the void itself was calling to him, stirring his own world's laws. Chapter 469. Anomaly of the laws, completing the laws. The laws. Lin Fei's consciousness followed the irresistible pull deep into the void of the divine realm. There, he saw the immense Sea of Origin, a sight so terrifyingly vast and powerful that it dwarfed anything he had ever witnessed. This boundless Sea of Origin exerted a pressure so formidable that even a fraction of its force seemed capable of obliterating Lin Fei's consciousness. The strength of a world could be gauged by its Sea of Origin. In comparison, the Sea of Origin of the ancient continent was but a mere pond against the oceanic vastness of the abyssal sea. Lin Fei also keenly sensed the flaws in his own laws, as if a significant portion was missing. Fortunately, Lin Fei had not yet undergone tribulation. Had he done so in the ancient continent, his laws would have strengthened, but they would have been fundamentally lacking compared to the advanced laws of the divine realm. More tribulations past would have meant falling further behind. Therefore, undergoing tribulation should ideally be done in the divine realm. Now, all was not lost. Lin Fei hadn't experienced any tribulation yet, and there was still time for rectification. It took him several days to fully remedy his laws. He then turned his attention to the 100 particle worlds within him, each originally based on the world laws of the ancient continent. Using the divine realm's world laws, Lin Fei reinforced and solidified these worlds. The results were remarkable. Although the number of particle worlds remained the same, each became significantly more potent, consequently enhancing Lin Fei's own strength. His physical body also became more robust. Despite these improvements, Lin Fei refrained from attempting the thunder tribulation. Having just arrived in the divine realm, he preferred to stabilize his newfound strength. After all, he had yet to witness the might of the divine realm's tribulation. A concrete benchmark or first-hand observation of the tribulation would be ideal. For the time being, Lin Fei continued to stay within the ancient covenant, gathering information and researching various materials. Gradually, Lin Fei developed a deeper understanding of the divine realm. This vast and boundless realm, its origins shrouded in mystery, seemed to be the center of all worlds, connecting countless smaller worlds like grains of sand in the Ganges. Lives from these myriad worlds, upon reaching the divine level, would converge in the divine realm to pursue the exalted state of true immortal. A true immortal transcends all time and space, existing eternally across all worlds, embodying the ultimate freedom and liberation. This title of immortal transcends mere nomenclature for cultivators. It represents a realm of achievement. Even martial ancestors, for instance, are considered on par with true immortals. Other cultivation systems, too, can achieve this exalted level. The Ancient Covenant, a major force within the divine realm, primarily consists of cultivators from the ancient continent. These cultivators, having arrived in the divine realm in the remote past, constitute one of the oldest powers in the realm. Their strength is unfathomable and their heritage is unimaginable. This is evident by the fact that even Dao Tai, a fearsome beast and demon king of the divine realm, had to sneak into the ancient continent covertly. In the divine realm, without the backing of a powerful faction, progression is nearly impossible. Affiliation is crucial for almost every endeavor, especially for those seeking to enter smaller worlds. Many cultivators, in pursuit of resources and enlightenment, must venture into these worlds. Although the laws of smaller worlds might be inferior to those of the divine realm, understanding them can serve as a stepping stone to comprehending the grander laws of the divine realm. This was precisely Lin Fei's experience. Having grasped the world laws of the ancient continent, he was able to complete and integrate with the world laws of the divine realm upon his arrival. Indeed, Lin Fei's profound understanding of the world's laws was the first reason. The second was that, having mastered the laws of the ancient continent, he found it less challenging to grasp those of the divine realm. Thus, many cultivators yearn to explore these minor worlds. However, these worlds were controlled by major forces. The discovery of a world brimming with potential could even spark conflicts and wars among these powers. For instance, the ancient continent, rich in potential and capable of nurturing true immortals, formed the bedrock of a top-tier power naturally governed by the ancient covenant. Outside of the ancient covenant, entry into the ancient continent was prohibited. Therefore, joining a power was essential, whether for entering or contesting these minor worlds. Such affiliation provided both legitimacy and support. Consider Dao Tai, who dared to smuggle himself into the ancient continent. Would a solitary cultivator or a member of a minor power possess such audacity? In truth, Dao Tai was a member of the All-Beast League, a top-tier force within the divine realm, and thus dared to undertake such a venture. Lin Fei had already made up his mind. He needed to join a power, and it had to be the Ancient Covenant. There was little hesitation in his choice of allegiance. While his options for power were limited, the manner of his joining was not. The Ancient Covenant, Lin Fei mused, boasts 2 supreme beings, 12 true immortals, 8 martial ancestors, and 3 hermits. These figures form the apex of the Ancient Covenant's hierarchy and its core echelon. The 2 supreme beings, needless to say, are revered and omnipotent, reigning supreme over all. They are among the most eminent figures in the divine realm, elusive as dragons, seldom seen by others, let alone approached for allegiance, Lin Fei reflected. The remaining 12 true immortals, 8 martial ancestors, and 3 hermits exist on an equal footing. Despite being named the 12 true immortals, their ranks include numerous martial artists and even martial gods, though primarily composed of cultivators of the immortal path. The 3 hermits, diverging from the paths of immortal and martial cultivation, follow alternative systems. Their power is not particularly formidable, and they offer little benefit to my cultivation, given the divergence in our paths. My choice, then, lies with the 8 martial ancestors. Each martial ancestor has their own lineage and legacy. They are all exceptional and renowned throughout the divine realm, though they differ in preferences and temperament. If I am to choose a faction to join, it should not overly constrain me, yet it must not be too weak. In this regard, the Great Dream Sect seems a fitting choice. Lin Fei finally narrowed down his selection to one faction, the Great Dream Sect. This faction, while not the most prominent within the Ancient Covenant, was undoubtedly strong and boasted a substantial following. Founded by one of the 8 ancestors, the Great Dream Ancestor, a notable martial ancestor renowned for achieving Tao integration in his dreams, the sect was known for its intriguing philosophy and lax governance, embracing the concept of following one's heart. The Great Dream Sect was relatively easy to join, though only at its periphery. Advancing into its core ranks would undoubtedly be more challenging. However, as a martial god, Lin Fei's admission into any faction was almost guaranteed, as long as his identity was unquestioned. Joining the Great Dream Sect would offer him fewer restrictions. Then, it's decided. I shall join the Great Dream Sect, Lin Fei resolved. Having made up his mind, Lin Fei promptly left the inn and flew towards the mountain gate of the Great Dream Sect. Chapter 470. The Mysterious Great Dream Heart Sutra. The mountain gate of the Great Dream Sect was located within the ancient city, just like the gates of other factions. This differed from the forces on the ancient continent. In the divine realm, powers wielded great divine abilities and vast capabilities. Even creating minor worlds was a common feat, and fitting the grand into the minuscule was effortlessly achieved. Thus, the physical location of a mountain gate was of little significance. Those with great beings could establish dominance anywhere, even creating a minor world within their minds to become a major force. Of course, these top-tier forces certainly possessed their own minor worlds. Soon, Lin Fei arrived at the Great Dream Sect, whose gate was situated in the bustling city center, guarded only by a few martial kings. Martial artists were seen entering and exiting freely. Lin Fei walked in unchallenged, as there seemed to be no need for inspection. After all, who would dare to cause trouble at the headquarters of the Great Dream Sect? Upon entering the Great Dream Sect's headquarters, Lin Fei was surprised to see it teeming with martial artists. Why are there so many people today? He wondered quietly. He knew that the Great Dream Sect recruited members continuously, without a specific recruitment period. Today is when Blood Fiend True Monarch is giving his public lecture, someone nearby mentioned. Many have come specifically to listen to him. That's why it's so crowded. Blood Fiend True Monarch. Lin Fei looked towards the direction where many people were heading into a portal. Only members of the Great Dream Sect were permitted to enter the minor world where the sect was actually located, as it contained the sect's internal resources. Being not yet a member of the Great Dream Sect, Lin Fei approached a counter and calmly stated, "I wish to join the Great Dream Sect." Joining the Great Dream Sect, one of the martial kings guarding the counter opened his eyes wide in surprise. "Huh? Senior, are you a martial god?" he asked respectfully, slightly taken aback. Lin Fei nodded in affirmation, indeed. The martial king, growing even more respectful, inquired, "Senior, as a martial god, have you never joined any faction before?" "That's correct." "Where do you come from, if I may ask?" "I have just arrived in the divine realm from the ancient continent." "The ancient continent?" The martial king's eyes widened, his demeanor becoming even more deferential. "Please wait a moment, Senior. Since you are a martial god, the test for joining will also need to be conducted by a martial god. I will call for one from our sect to come and conduct your test." Lin Fei was then led to a grand hall within the Great Dream Sect, where he waited quietly. Martial gods, revered wherever they went, held esteemed positions, and joining the Great Dream Sect would be no exception. Furthermore, Lin Fei's origin from the ancient continent seemed to hold significant importance within the sect. Soon, two martial gods entered the hall. Seeing Lin Fei, they approached with beaming smiles. "Fellow Taoist, are you the one wishing to join our Great Dream Sect?" "Yes, I wish to join the Great Dream Sect," Lin Fei confirmed. "How may we address you, Taoist friend?" "I am Lin Fei." "Taoist Lin, we heard that you have just entered the divine realm from the ancient continent." "That is correct. I have recently stepped into the divine realm from the ancient continent." Their smiles widened further upon hearing his confirmation. "Taoist Lin, you might not be aware," one of the martial gods began, "that cultivating in the ancient continent is exceedingly difficult. Although it is the ancestral land of our ancient covenant, cultivation there is much harder than in the divine realm. To cultivate to the level of a martial god and then step into the divine realm is an extraordinary feat. You are the first in tens of thousands of years to do so. Even those who previously entered the divine realm from the ancient continent were only deity transformation experts. We had almost believed that the martial path in the ancient continent had declined and it would be hard to see the emergence of another martial god. Yet, here you are, Taoist Lin. Moreover, choosing our Great Dream Sect is a wise decision. Our sect is known for its relaxed management and welcoming atmosphere. Once you truly join the Great Dream Sect, our ancestor treats all members equally and is very protective. If any trouble arises, our Great Dream Sect will not stand idly by." Lin Fei listened with some surprise. "Wait, isn't the Great Dream Sect known for its laxity?" From the information Lin Fei had gathered, the Great Dream Sect, despite having a large number of members, was known for its loose management and lack of cohesion. But what he was hearing from these members seemed to suggest otherwise. Was the Great Dream Sect more united than it appeared? Noticing Lin Fei's astonished expression, the martial god smiled slightly. "It seems, Taoist Lin, that you have already gathered some information about our sect. On the surface, the Great Dream sect appears disorganized and slack due to our principle of following one's heart and our recruitment of a diverse range of members, which makes it seem like we lack cohesion. But that's only on the surface. In reality, the Great Dream sect is divided into peripheral and core members. The peripheral membership is vast and open to all, but the core is different. The core members of the Great Dream sect are few, and each is held to a standard. The sole requirement is the mastery of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. Even a beginner who can cultivate the Great Dream Heart Sutra becomes a core member of our sect. Martial gods from the ancient continent, like yourself, possess top-tier talent. Cultivating the Great Dream Heart Sutra should be highly probable for someone with your capabilities. Lin Fei understood. The Great Dream sect appeared to have no barriers to entry, but in reality, there was an inner threshold, the Great Dream Heart Sutra. This sutra seemed to be the key. I can try to cultivate the Great Dream Heart Sutra, though I'm not sure if I'll succeed, Lin Fei stated. Of course, chuckled the martial god. The first level of the Great Dream Heart Sutra is all you need to cultivate. Once you do, you'll immediately become a core member of the Great Dream sect. The martial god handed Lin Fei the first level of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. Is there a time limit? Lin Fei inquired. There's none, the martial god replied. Lin Fei found this strange. What if I take too long to cultivate it, or it gets leaked? The martial god smiled knowingly. To leak it, you must first memorize the Great Dream Heart Sutra. Go ahead with your practice and you will soon understand why we are not concerned about it being leaked or the time it takes. Intrigued by the mysterious nature of the sutra, Lin Fei nodded and was led to a secluded chamber. Once he was sure of his privacy and safety, he settled down to study the sutra. The Great Dream Heart Sutra was enigmatic, and Lin Fei quickly became immersed in it. However, he realized that despite its brevity, he couldn't memorize it. This was shocking to Lin Fei, as he usually could remember anything with just a glance. Yet, his mind was blank. After repeated attempts, he managed to memorize the first few words, but the next day, the first word had vanished from his memory. It dawned on him that a word of the sutra disappeared each day. In 100 days, it would be entirely gone. If he couldn't remember the sutra, he couldn't cultivate it, hence failing the task. This explained why the sect was not worried about it being leaked or time-bound. It was simply too elusive to retain. Shaking his head, Lin Fei acknowledged the Great Dream Heart Sutra as the most peculiar technique he had encountered. Though he lost the first word, remembering a few words of the first sentence didn't affect the overall sutra. But the crucial question remained, how would he successfully cultivate the first level of this baffling Great Dream Heart Sutra? Chapter 471. Dream World. Lin Fei was in a predicament. His martial arts techniques always followed the principle of volunteers take the bait. Essentially, they would willingly adopt his methods, complementing each other's strengths. As for making concerted efforts to comprehend and cultivate these techniques, there was almost none. But what about the Great Dream Heart Sutra? Could it pose a threat? A thought struck Lin Fei. The Great Dream Heart Sutra must be of a high echelon, perhaps even surpassing the level of martial gods. Among the martial arts he had encountered so far, the only one that belonged to the martial gods level was his self-created 4 symbols and 5 elements creation technique. Great Dream Heart Sutra, would you like to become part of my martial arts? I can lead you to the pinnacle of the martial path. Lin Fei, as usual, tried to entice the scripture, hoping it would voluntarily become part of his repertoire. Unfortunately, despite his long wait, there was no response from the scripture. It's time for the 4 symbols and 5 elements creation technique to take action, Lin Fei commanded his self-created technique, which naturally obeyed his orders. Bring the Great Dream Heart Sutra to me. In Lin Fei's mind, a long-missed voice from the system rang out. He concentrated and looked into his sea of consciousness. There, the lights representing the 4 symbols and 5 elements creation technique and the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra clashed fiercely. Despite the grandeur of his creation technique, it couldn't overpower the scripture. In fact, the scripture counterattacked several times, leaving the 4 symbols and 5 elements creation technique flickering with spiritual light. Your 4 symbols and 5 elements creation technique has failed in its duel against the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra, suffering severe damage. A chill ran through Lin Fei. His creation technique had failed, thoroughly beaten by the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. This was a first for Lin Fei, who had always had smooth sailing. In the past, if he wanted a martial art, even if it was unwilling, a duel initiated by his own techniques usually resulted in success. But now, just the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra had left his own technique disoriented and defeated. What was he to do? There must be a way, Lin Fei thought determinedly. Every martial art has its weakness. The first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. He pondered deeply. What did this first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra need? Then it struck him. Perhaps the scripture sought to be completed. This is just the first layer. The complete Great Dream Heart Sutra must be terrifying, Lin Fei realized. He then declared, Great Dream Heart Sutra, if you follow me, I will gather all the techniques for you, completing you. No sooner had Lin Fei finished speaking than the Great Dream Heart Sutra transformed into a streak of light and flew directly into his body. It worked. Lin Fei's heart leapt with joy. He hadn't expected it to be so easy to succeed. The Great Dream Heart Sutra, it seemed, merely longed for completeness. The first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra has become your martial art. The system panel appeared before Lin Fei's eyes. Host, Lin Fei. Martial Arts Realm, Martial Gods, Thunder Tribulation not yet crossed. Great Dream Heart Sutra, first layer, progress 1%. Lin Fei had reached the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra, but his progress was merely 1%. Simultaneously, a segment of memory emerged in his mind. This was his memory of cultivating the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. However, this memory was bizarre, almost as if there was no memory at all. Indeed, Lin Fei felt like he had a blank in his memory. There's nothing. But it clearly shows that I've cultivated the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra, Lin Fei frowned, puzzled. Up until now, he had no idea what exactly the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra entailed. Deciding to seek answers, Lin Fei stood up and left his private chamber for the main hall. Upon arriving, he saw the two martial gods of the Great Dream sect he had encountered before. Their eyes held an inexplicable hint of surprise upon seeing Lin Fei. Lin Fei directly addressed them, fellow Taoists, this first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra is indeed mysterious. I feel as though I have succeeded in cultivating the first layer, yet I also feel nothing. Can you enlighten me? The two martial gods exchanged glances, a hint of a smile appearing on their faces. The essence of the Great Dream Heart Sutra lies in the character for dream. Life is like a grand dream, where everything in the dream follows your heart's desire. As long as you wish, it will be so in the dream. This is the highest realm of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. In the dream is reality, whatever exists in the dream exists in reality. The dream is a reflection of reality. However, your current level is still low, merely at the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra, just beginning to enter the dream state. You can't yet discern what is real and what is illusory. So are you still not awake? With their thunderous shout, Lin Fei felt the sound of thunder reverberating from all directions. Whoosh! Lin Fei shuddered all over. Where he looked next was not the hole, he was still in his cultivation chamber. Dream. Reality. Lin Fei was astounded. Was everything just now a dream? Yet, his system panel clearly showed that he had reached 1% progress in the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. Could this still be a dream? Lin Fei, a mighty martial god, was beginning to struggle to distinguish between reality and illusion. Thus, he rose and went directly to the hall. There, the same two martial gods were present. Before Lin Fei could speak, they both smiled and said, "Congratulations, fellow Taoist, on cultivating the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. Soon, we shall be from the same sect." What do you mean? Lin Fei was puzzled. How did you know I had cultivated the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra? Fellow Taoist, didn't we just meet in the dream? They responded. Met in a dream? So, everything just now was real? Lin Fei was startled. Ha ha ha, fellow Taoist, this is the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. In fact, the first layer is about entering the dream. Why do we in the Great Dream sect consider the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra as the threshold for beginners? Only those who have cultivated the first layer can become core members. The reason is simple. Only by cultivating the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra can one enter the dream, where we can meet in the dream. The world within the dream is the true gate of our Great Dream sect. We are a sect established within the realm of dreams. Lin Fei's eyes widened in disbelief at the scene before him. A sect established in the realm of dreams. The true Great Dream sect resided within a dream world. This is indeed beyond imagination, Lin Fei murmured to himself. It is indeed extraordinary, but all of this was created by the great ancestor of the Great Dream, they explained. In reality, the Great Dream Heart Sutra serves as a gateway to the world of dreams. Only those who successfully cultivate the Great Dream Heart Sutra are qualified to enter this dream world and become the true core members of the Great Dream sect. The Great Dream Heart Sutra begins to reveal its miraculous nature starting from the second layer. When you reach it, you will understand the myriad of benefits it holds. Lin Fei nodded in agreement. It seemed that the Great Dream sect was not as simple as the little information he had gathered. This was to be expected. In the entire ancient covenant, the 12 true immortals, 8 great martial ancestors, and 3 great hermits, which of them was simple? To be at the level of a true immortal, an undying and unperishable being, was to be a terrifying great being, transcending heaven and earth, far beyond Lin Fei's imagination. His interest in the second layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra grew stronger. He was eager to discover the marvels of the second layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. What wonders would it hold? Chapter 472. City in the Dream. The second layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra can only be imparted within a dream, they explained. Moreover, one must complete certain tasks of the Great Dream sect and earn contribution points. These points can then be exchanged for the Great Dream Heart Sutra. The Great Dream Heart Sutra is critical at every layer. Although it doesn't directly enhance combat power, its indirect amplification of strength is terrifying. It's considered one of the top auxiliary martial arts. Lin Fei nodded in understanding. Auxiliary was the precise definition of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. Above the martial gods level, there weren't specific martial arts techniques per se. Essentially, all techniques were auxiliary. The primary techniques one practiced were all self-created, tailored to the individual's own understanding of the laws. But to be auxiliary was in itself a mark of excellence. Junior brother Lin, let's go. Let me show you the Great Dream sect and take you into the real Great Dream sect. Here? No, of course, in the dream. The 2 martial gods smiled faintly. Lin Fei understood immediately and began to operate the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. Buzz. Lin Fei felt as if he was in a dreamlike state. He was still in the hall with the 2 martial gods in front of him. Everything around him appeared vivid and lifelike, seemingly no different from reality. However, this time Lin Fei was prepared and knew in his heart that this was a world of dreams. Whether it was his own dream world or one constructed collectively by the Great Dream Heart Sutra, Lin Fei was unsure. All right, junior brother Lin, follow me, one of the martial gods beckoned. Thus, Lin Fei followed the 2 martial gods out of the hall and stepped through a gateway of light. Whoosh! The next moment, Lin Fei felt as if he had entered a small world. His vision suddenly cleared, revealing a vast city bustling with activity. Many people were walking about, including martial kings, though they were rare. Martial gods, on the other hand, were more common. Those who could enter here were all core members of the Great Dream sect. Junior brother Lin, now that you have cultivated the Great Dream Heart Sutra, everyone in this Great Dream city addresses each other as fellow disciples, explained one of the martial gods. I understand you have many questions. This Great Dream city is actually the dream world of our ancestor. We all have our own dreamscapes, but by cultivating the Great Dream Heart Sutra, our dreams connect with the ancestors. No matter how far apart, we can connect through dreams unless separated by a different world or obstructed by the Tao, in which case the dreams cannot connect. Lin Fei understood. The Great Dream City was founded by the Great Dream Ancestor, and those who practiced the Great Dream Heart Sutra could enter and interact. What if the Great Dream City collapses, or if we die? Lin Fei asked. Collapse? Unless the ancestor falls, the Great Dream City will always exist. As for dying in the dream, what happens when you die in a dream? I would wake up. Exactly. Death in the dream results in immediate awakening. So you needn't worry about being killed in the dream affecting your physical self. It's not that sinister. Otherwise, who would dare to cultivate the Great Dream Heart Sutra? The true purpose of the Ancestors' Great Dream Heart Sutra is to assist us in comprehending the laws. In the dream world, we can interpret, comprehend, and even experiment with the laws. Some even use the dream to attempt high failure rate tasks from reality. This is the fundamental function of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. Lin Fei's eyes lit up with understanding. The Great Dream Heart Sutra allowed for the simulation of laws within a dream, a tremendous boon for many martial gods. It was a highly coveted benefit. Just this advantage alone would attract countless martial gods to practice the Great Dream Heart Sutra. Unfortunately, not everyone could successfully cultivate it. Lin Fei and the two martial gods arrived at the ancestral hall. Inside, there was only a statue. Everyone who joins the Great Dream sect is a disciple of the ancestor. Even a true monarch is the disciple of the ancestor. We all address each other as fellow disciples, they explained. The ancestor occasionally lectures within the Great Dream City. You will know when it happens. Besides, to meet the ancestor, one must report to the true monarchs in the ancestral hall. There are always true monarchs present there. Lin Fei now understood the structure of the Great Dream sect. In the ancestral hall, there was a true monarch present, eyes closed and silent, seemingly indifferent to the presence of Lin Fei and others. Nonetheless, Lin Fei and his companions respectfully bowed before leaving the hall. Now that you've paid respects to the ancestor, you're officially a member of the Great Dream sect, Junior Brother Lin, one of the martial gods said. The essence of the Great Dream sect lies in Great Dream City. Explore it for a while and you'll understand everything. Thank you for your guidance, Senior Brother. May I know your names? I'm Tom Shan, and is Zhao Lin. We'll meet again if fate allows. With that, the two left. The task of guiding Lin Fei into the Great Dream sect was completed. Great Dream City. Lin Fei gazed at the city in the dream, marveling at its wonder. He began to stroll around, acquainting himself with the city and learning how to obtain the second layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. After a few days, Lin Fei had a clear understanding. The second layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra was expensive, requiring 10,000 contribution points. Though the Great Ancestor had passed down the Great Dream Heart Sutra, hoping it would spread widely, and sometimes even left the first layer in the human world to see if any fated individual could cultivate it, the path to the second layer wasn't as straightforward. Indeed, some lucky individuals, through chance encounters, had cultivated the first layer and made their way to Great Dream City, a place that seemed like paradise. Their rise often began from this point. The Great Ancestor occasionally ventured among mortals, but the teachings of the Tao were not to be imparted lightly. To access the second layer, one must use contribution points. Of course, one could choose not to cultivate beyond the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. But after understanding the benefits of the second layer and beyond, Lin Fei knew that almost no one would give up on the Great Dream Heart Sutra. The first layer granted access to the Great Dream City, which was just the basic prerequisite. The depth of one's cultivation in the Great Dream Heart Sutra could influence the flow of time within the dream. The Great Dream Heart Sutra divides the dream world into 5 layers. Lin Fei learned that the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra only allowed access to the first level of the dream world, where time flows at the same speed as in the outside world. A day in the dream is equivalent to a day outside. However, the second layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra is different. It grants access to the second layer of the dream world, where time can flow up to 10 times faster 10 days in the dream for every day outside. The third layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra allows entry into the third layer of the dream, where time flows up to 100 times faster. The fourth layer can even accelerate time more drastically, and the fifth layer of the dream is said to be able to halt time within the dream entirely. The Great Dream Ancestor, after a single sleep, became a martial ancestor. This feat has become a myth, a legend. But in reality, the Great Dream Ancestor might have entered the deeper levels of the dream world. Even without reaching the fifth layer, just the fourth layer alone would mean a year in the divine realm equals 10,000 years in the dream. Thus, while it is said that the Great Dream Ancestor merely slept, he actually cultivated in the dream world for an unimaginably long time. This difference in the flow of time is why many seek to elevate the Great Dream Heart Sutra to higher realms, gaining deeper access into the dream world and accelerating time within it. After all, in the dream, no matter how fast time flows, it doesn't affect one's physical body or lifespan in the outside world. Chapter 473. Escort Mission. Lin Fei murmured to himself about the need for contribution points, which were essential not only for acquiring the second layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra but also for his preparations to cross the Thunder Tribulation. To understand the power of the Thunder Tribulation, experiencing it firsthand was crucial, and the dream world provided the perfect environment for such simulations. Here, martial gods who had personally experienced the Thunder Tribulation could recreate it almost exactly, offering Lin Fei a chance to gauge his readiness for the ordeal. Such preparatory simulations were common practice among the martial gods of the Great Dream sect. However, hiring a martial god who had undergone the Thunder Tribulation, even just for a simulation, would cost at least 100 contribution points. Without these points, one's options in Great Dream City were severely limited. Determined to earn contribution points, Lin Fei decided to head to the task hall, where members of the Great Dream sect exchanged and issued personal tasks. While the Great Dream Ancestor rarely posted tasks, members often sought assistance for various missions, many of which involved conquering minor worlds. These tasks were high in rewards but fraught with danger, as conflicts with powerful beings were common in such worlds. Knowing his current lack of understanding of the overall strength of other martial gods and deity transformation experts in the divine realm, Lin Fei wisely chose not to engage in such risky endeavors. Then, a particular task caught his eye. Employment of a martial god who has not yet crossed the Thunder Tribulation. Task to protect the employer on a journey to Black Moon City, duration of 1 month. Reward, 1,000 contribution points. This task immediately stood out to Lin Fei, offering a substantial reward that would cover his immediate need for contribution points. It seemed like an opportunity not to be missed. Lin Fei's eyes brightened at the thought of earning 1,000 contribution points, a substantial amount that was neither too high nor too low for a task like this. The mission was to journey to Black Moon City, a place known for its chaos but not particularly dangerous for a martial god. For many martial gods, such places posed little risk. A trip to Black Moon City for a month could earn Lin Fei the points he needed to experience the power of the first and possibly the second Thunder Tribulation, helping him decide whether to continue strengthening his abilities or to undergo the tribulation. "I'll take this task," Lin Fei decided, approaching the attendant at the task hall to claim the mission. The process was smooth. Lin Fei had not yet crossed the Thunder Tribulation, an undeniable fact. However, he was curious about why the task specifically required a martial god who had not undergone the Thunder Tribulation. Even a martial god who could be hired for 1,000 contribution points, which seemed odd. Nonetheless, the employer must have had their reasons. After receiving the task, Lin Fei got the location from the employer and left Great Dream City. He headed to the specified spot in the ancient city, an ordinary street corner with no one around. Waiting quietly, about an hour later, a woman in a black robe approached him. "Martial god Lin Fei." "Employer." "I am not the employer, I am the person you are tasked to protect," the woman in the black robe clarified. Lin Fei was surprised to find that she was a martial king, a rank not particularly noteworthy in the ancient covenant, but it was unusual in Great Dream City, where most were martial gods. The fact that she denied being the employer, yet there was no other martial god around to hire someone for the protection of a mere martial king, made Lin Fei suspect that she was, indeed, the employer, being cautious and careful to conceal her identity. Lin Fei quickly surmised that the woman in the black robe was likely one of those legendary, lucky ones rumored about in Great Dream City. She had managed to obtain the Great Dream Heart Sutra despite her low realm and had successfully cultivated it to gain access to the city. Using the resources and information available in Great Dream City, she had risen rapidly. Once perhaps just a mortal or martial saint, she had now found herself among martial gods and even true monarchs, leveraging even the slightest resources to a great advantage. "From now on, I'll call you Uncle Lin," the woman said. "You can refer to me as Young Master. Aside from necessary communication, try not to speak. The task is to accompany me to and from Black Moon City within a month. Once that's done, you'll have completed the task." Lin Fei found her conditions intriguing but simple enough for a hiring mission. Yet, he was cautious. "If you're pursued and I have to intervene, the cost is 100 contribution points for opponents below martial god level and 1,000 for those above. Regardless, you must ensure my safety," she insisted. Lin Fei understood her fears. Black Moon City was chaotic, and a martial king like her was vulnerable to danger. However, accompanied by a martial god, her safety was considerably more assured. Her specific request for a martial god who hadn't crossed the Thunder Tribulation might indicate she wanted someone strong but not overwhelmingly so, in case they harbored ill intentions. Agreed, I'll do it, Lin Fei responded, and the woman nodded in satisfaction, declaring an immediate departure for Black Moon City. Lin Fei quickly adapted to his new role. He was curious about the woman's intentions in hiring him and the nature of her mission, especially considering her pretense in the effort to hide her identity. She seemed affluent, possibly possessing magical treasures, and was familiar with the divine realm, unlike Lin Fei, who was venturing outside the ancient covenant for the first time. The journey was quiet, with little conversation between them. As they neared Black Moon City, the sky darkened under the shadow of the Black Moon, a sign of entering the domain of the Supreme Black Moon. We are now within the domain of the Supreme Black Moon, she explained. Wherever the Black Moon hangs in the sky, that's his territory. Black Moon City isn't far now. True to her words, Lin Fei soon saw the massive city bustling with people, many of whom cast wary and sharp glances at them, sensing the presence of outsiders. Chapter 474. Roadblock. A flat rate of 10,000 contribution points. Lin Fei, with an impassive demeanor, entered the Black Moon City alongside the woman. In the city's myriad shops, the woman began to discreetly sell various items. While each transaction was modest in scale, the cumulative total across Black Moon City was remarkably substantial. All this unfolded under Lin Fei's watchful gaze. In each shop, Lin Fei subtly, almost imperceptibly, addressed the woman as young master, a deliberate ploy to mislead the shopkeepers into overestimating her status. It was all an elaborate facade, employing Lin Fei as a mere decoy to intimidate those harboring malicious intentions. So that's it. Lin Fei mused, admiring the woman's meticulous caution. Her possession of coveted treasures was evident, necessitating a gradual and discreet disposal of these goods to avoid unwanted attention. Despite not having passed the Thunder Tribulation, Lin Fei was confident enough in her presence, daring to witness the entire process. The realization dawned on him, this woman was undoubtedly a fortunate cultivator of the Great Dream Heart Sutra. Utilizing just the first layer of the Great Dream Heart Sutra, she navigated among numerous martial gods, reaping immense benefits and amassing a fortune over time, significant enough to afford the services of martial gods like Lin Fei. However, caution aside, Lin Fei and the woman eventually attracted attention. Black Moon City, a place where one could freely trade anything without questioning its origins, was also a breeding ground for danger, teeming with a mix of characters. Their method of selling small quantities in each shop, though prudent, would not conceal their secrets if they were under scrutiny from the start. After about 10 days in Black Moon City, having sold almost everything, the woman suggested they return. "Let's go back," she said. "Once we reach the ancient city, your task will be complete." She seemed quite pleased with Lin Fei. The trip had been successful. Not only had she sold many items, but she also acquired numerous satisfying goods. Lin Fei's conduct throughout had particularly impressed her. Returning to the ancient city would allow her to dedicate considerable time to cultivation, potentially reaching the pinnacle of martial king. A rare smile graced her face, while Lin Fei remained stoic, nodding silently without a word, letting the woman make the arrangements. After all, his earnings were a mere 1,000 contribution points. Their mutual desire to avoid complications hastened their departure from Black Moon City. But scarcely had they flown out of Black Moon City, not far from its limits, when Lin Fei abruptly halted. Standing with his hands clasped behind him, he gazed into the void. The woman, somewhat hesitant, asked, "Why have we stopped?" Lin Fei, in a serene tone, responded, "Come out now. You've been waiting for quite a while, haven't you?" "Ah." A voice echoed in surprise. "He actually detected us." "Impressive, indeed, he's quite skilled. We were so careful, yet we couldn't lure them into our lethal formation." At that moment, two figures materialized from the void, as if appearing out of thin air, their previous whereabouts unknown. The woman's face darkened as she quickly grasped the situation. She realized they must have been targeted since their time in Black Moon City. "What do you want?" she asked, foregoing any idle chatter. If she could dispel these deity transformation experts with a portion of her belongings, she would not be stingy. After all, material possessions were external to oneself. Temporarily yielding was her way of survival, otherwise she would have perished countless times already. Reasonable, the two deity transformation experts nodded in approval. Unfortunately, you have too many valuable items on you, and we want them all. The woman, with a solemn voice, inquired, so there's no room for negotiation? What if there isn't? They retorted. A martial god and a martial king, and the martial god hasn't even passed the thunder tribulation. You kept calling each other young master. The act was convincing, but alas, we care not for any young master powers. Real or fake, it's irrelevant. Our goal is to seize the treasures and leave. Do you think you could summon a true monarch or even a supreme to hunt us down? They scoffed. If you had such connections, you wouldn't need to sell treasures in Black Moon City. The two deity transformation experts had the woman and Lin Fei firmly in their grasp, convinced that neither was a significant figure. After all, why else would they resort to selling treasures in Black Moon City? Observing the woman's seasoned methods, it was clear this wasn't her first time conducting such transactions, hardly the behavior of a high-ranking individual. In a moment of resolve, the woman turned to Lin Fei and proposed, "You hold off one for 1,000 contribution points." Lin Fei, somewhat surprised, asked, "Can you handle the other deity transformation cultivator?" He was aware of her potential hidden strengths, but the prowess of the two deity transformation cultivators was not to be underestimated. "I'll have to try," the woman said with a determined look, her eyes betraying a hint of hesitation, though she had no other choice. Lin Fei shook his head and calmly offered, "I have a plan to deal with both for 2,000 contribution points." "How does that sound?" The deity transformation cultivators, overhearing Lin Fei and the woman's conversation, scoffed with a darkened expression. "You're facing death and still think you can negotiate. Do you think we only have a single deity transformation form?" they taunted. "We've invested heavily to deal with you." With a wave of their hands, multiple incarnations burst forth from their bodies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each person manifested 4 incarnations, or perhaps they themselves were an incarnation, amounting to 5 each. Together, they formed a formidable assembly of 10 incarnations, each exuding the aura of a deity transformation. This was the true terror of deity transformation experts. With enough resources, they could cultivate numerous incarnations, hundreds or even thousands, forming a terrifying army. The martial gods, on the other hand, had only one form, but their combat prowess subtly surpassed that of deity transformations. However, Lin Fei hadn't undergone the thunder tribulation and was at a disadvantage in both realm and momentum. Facing the 10 deity transformation incarnations, the woman's expression soured, her heart sinking at the overwhelming odds. Lin Fei remained unperturbed and decisively said, "No more words. For a flat rate of 10,000 contribution points, I'll handle these incarnations and ensure your safe return, totaling 12,000 contribution points." His voice was calm yet exuded undeniable confidence, leaving the woman momentarily stunned. She knew the challenge of facing 10 deity transformation incarnations, yet seeing Lin Fei's composed expression, she made a resolute decision, agreeing to his terms. "Flat rate, 10,000 contribution points, solve this for me." Lin Fei's lips curled into a faint smile as he replied, "As you wish." The next moment, hundreds of particle worlds within Lin Fei burst forth explosively.